They called security and forced her off the flight. They thought that was the end of it. They had no idea she was about to take over everything. Zara Hastings understood the power of time. She had built her career around it, securing high-stakes aviation finance deals, negotiating under pressure, and ensuring that every decision she made counted. Today was no different. Dressed in a sharp navy blue blazer and a crisp white blouse, she walked into LAX with purpose. Her flight to Phoenix was a short one, less than 2 hours. Just another routine trip for a meeting that could change everything. She checked in, passed through security, and grabbed a quick coffee before heading to her gate. Everything was routine until it wasn't. The moment she stepped onto the plane, she sensed it. A shift in energy, a tension in the air. A flight attendant, mid-40s, blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, gave her a look. Not a standard, professional glance, something else. Something assessing. Zara had seen that look before. The silent question, "Do you belong here?" She ignored it. There were deals to close, numbers to finalize. She just wanted to sit, review her notes, and get to her destination. Walking down the aisle, she glanced at her boarding pass again. Seat 3A, first class. She reached her row, placed her carry-on in the overhead bin, and settled into her seat. Then the flight attendant reappeared, this time with a forced smile. "Ma'am, I need to see your boarding pass again." Zara blinked. She had just shown it. But she kept her composure, pulled out her phone, and displayed her digital ticket. The attendant barely looked at it before shaking her head. "There seems to be a mistake. This seat is already assigned to another passenger." Zara tilted her head slightly. "No, it's not. 3A is mine. I booked it weeks ago." The attendant sighed sharply, irritation flashing across her face. "Let me check with the gate agent." Without another word, she walked away. Zara tapped her fingers against the armrest. She had spent years navigating spaces where people didn't expect her, boardrooms where she was mistaken for an assistant, meetings where she was ignored until she proved she was the one in charge. But this was public, and it was about to escalate. A few moments later, the flight attendant returned, this time with a male colleague. He looked uncomfortable, like he didn't want to be here. "Ma'am, we need you to step off the plane." The air in the cabin shifted. Murmurs rippled through the rows. A couple across the aisle turned their heads. Zara sat up straighter. "Excuse me, there's been an issue with your ticket. We need you to deboard so we can sort it out." The words were professional. The tone was not. There was no discussion. No alternative offered. Just a demand. Zara took a slow breath. "I'm not leaving until you explain why my confirmed seat is suddenly an issue." The flight attendant folded her arms. The friendly act was gone. "You're being uncooperative." That word, uncooperative, a trigger word. A tool used to turn a simple disagreement into defiance, to make her the problem. More whispers, more eyes watching. And before Zara could respond, the male flight attendant spoke into his radio. "Security." Zara clenched her jaw. This wasn't just about a seat anymore. This was about power. About showing her that no matter how qualified, composed, or prepared she was, they could still make her small. Minutes later, two security officers arrived. "Ma'am, please gather your belongings and exit the aircraft." She had a choice: stand her ground and risk an unnecessary scene, or walk away with her dignity intact. She stood slowly, lifting her bag from the overhead bin. The moment stretched. Every set of eyes was on her. As she turned, she met the flight attendant's gaze one last time. The woman didn't look triumphant. She looked indifferent, like this was just another task in her shift. Zara walked off the plane in silence, but this wasn't over. Zara stepped into the terminal, her grip tightening around the handle of her carry-on. Humiliated, dismissed like she didn't belong. For what? A power trip, a personal bias disguised as airline protocol. She took a breath, steady. This wasn't the time to react emotionally. She had built her career on thinking several moves ahead. If they thought they had put her in her place, they had no idea what was coming. Pulling out her phone, she scrolled through her contacts and hit dial. "Zara, you're calling me at airport hours. This should be good." She exhaled sharply, a smirk forming. "I need a favor." Within minutes, the airline's top executives were scrambling. Calls were made, meetings were scheduled. The situation was already bigger than they could control. Because Zara wasn't just a passenger, she was a key player in the aviation finance world. And the airline had just ejected the wrong person. 2 weeks later, she walked through that same airport again. But this time, everything was different. She wasn't a passenger anymore. She wasn't a woman being forced off a flight. She was the new owner of the airline. The hostile takeover happened fast. The moment the news of her removal hit the press, the airline's stock plummeted. Investors panicked, the board scrambled, and Zara? She, along with key investors, swooped in at the perfect moment. Within 10 days, leadership changed hands. The CEO was out. The operations director resigned. Internal restructuring began, and Zara? She wasn't just sitting on the board, she was running the show. Walking through the terminal, her heels clicking against the polished floor, she spotted a familiar face, the flight attendant, the one who had smirked as security escorted her off. Zara slowed just enough to be seen. The woman looked up, froze, recognition, panic. Zara said nothing at first, let the silence do the work. Then, with quiet authority, she spoke. "You work for me now." The flight attendant paled. I was just following policy." Zara raised a hand. "Save it. I'm not here for an apology. I'm here to make something clear." A pause. "You can learn from this, or you can pack your things." She walked away, leaving the choice in the woman's hands. Because real power wasn't about revenge. It was about control, and she had taken it. Lesson learned, never underestimate the person you try to silence. Because one day, they might be the one signing your paycheck. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. More real-life lessons, more stories that keep you thinking. Because power shifts faster than you think.